Hey everyone, welcome to homework 2.5. Today we are looking more at writing functions given scenarios. So we're going to start with the homework and then I'll go back over some of the classwork. If there's anything else that you need help with, feel free to text me. Let's get started. The cell phone plan from company C costs $10 per month plus $15 per gigabyte for data used. The plan from company D costs $80 with unlimited data. So we have two companies, company C and company D. Rule C gives a monthly cost in dollars of using G gigabytes of data on company C's plan. Rule D gives a monthly cost in dollars of using G gigabytes of data. All right, so it says write a sentence describing the meaning of statement C of 2 equals 40. All right, so in this case here, this is our input, and it's saying that it is per gigabyte of data, right? So the cost is determined by how many gigabytes of data used. So in this case, it is for company C, 2 gigabytes of data will cost $40. It says which is less, C of 4 or D of 4. So in order to figure that out, we need to figure out what the rules are. So we have C of, that's not a very good parenthesis, let's try that again. C of equals $10 per month plus $15 per gigabyte. All right. D is just a flat $80 per month, regardless of the number of gigabytes that you use. So this means that no matter what I put in for X, my Y value will be 80. So the cost, no matter what, is going to be $80. So C of 4 would be where we input 4 for X, and we would get 10 plus 4 times 15 is 60. So that equals 70. And D of 4, remember, no matter what I put in for X, I have a constant value of 80. So in this case, C of 4 is less, which means that if you were to use 4 or less gigabytes of data, that plan C would be cheaper for you. If you're going to go over that, then we might start to creep up near this $80, and then that might mean we should use the other plan. So let's try this next one. So C of 5, let's plug in 5 here. We get 10 plus 15 times 5. So that's going to be 75, which equals $85. And D of 5, again, is always going to be 80. So here's a case in which if we use 5 gigabytes of data, then plan C is going to be more expensive. And so if you're going to use a lot of data, then you want that unlimited plan, which makes sense. All right, letter D says for what number G is C of G equal to 130? So instead of X, they use G for gigabytes. Again, I just like to use X because I think it's a little clearer. But for what number G is C of G equal to 130? So our equation is 10 plus 15G. We'll change that. So 10 plus 15G. And we want to see when will it equal 130. So now we just have a standard equation because we've replaced C of G with 130. And so I'm going to subtract 10 from both sides, as I would do in a normal equation situation, and we'll get 15G equals 120. And now we can divide both sides by 15 and calculate for G. So you can easily do that yourself. So find out what G equals when C of G is 130. This means that for that amount of gigabytes, the cost of this plan is going to be $130. Based on our other calculations for 4 gigabytes and 5 gigabytes, whatever is going to equal 130 should be more than that, right? So you can check to see that your answer makes sense. It says draw the graph of each function. So let's start with D, because D is, no matter what, it's going to be 80. So no matter where we go, the cost for D, plan D, is going to be $80. So here I can label this plan D, right? Plan C, on the other hand, is going to start at $10, right? Because we have a starting amount here of $10, no matter what. So it's going to be here. And then as I use gigabytes, it's going to add 15. So it's going to go up 15 every gigabyte that I use. So if I use 1 gigabyte, now it's going to be 15 plus 10, so 25. So that will be about here, right, between the 20 and the 30. If I use 2 gigabytes, that'll be 30 plus 10 is 40. All right, if I use 3 gigabytes, we'll have 3, so 45, 55. And that'll be here. Okay, and this should form a line because this is a linear function, and so you'll have a line going. Let's see, if we have 4, that's 60, 70. 5 we determined was 85. So here, so the point at which plan D becomes a smarter choice, right, is after this point right here. So after approximately 4 point some, right, between 4 and 5 gigabytes is where it's better to just go ahead and use plan D, because that's always going to be $80 versus plan C is going to continue rising the more gigabytes that you use. All right, function G is represented by the graph. For what input value or values is G of x equal to 4? So you don't even need to know anything about this graph. We're trying to figure out when is the y value 4, right? So when does it equal 4? So that's at this point here and at this point here, because y equals 4 there. And so in these points, 2 and -2 is where y equals 4. So the input here for it could actually be 2 options. It could be -2 or 2. All right, number 3 says function P gives the perimeter of an equilateral triangle of side length S. So again, we have triangle with equal sides. The perimeter is represented by P of S equals 3 times S. What does P of S equals 60 in this situation mean? So this would mean that the perimeter is 60. If 3S is our equation, we can set 3S equal to 60 and solve for S. This means that each side length is 20. And it doesn't give us units here, so we just know that each side length is 20. Write a value of S to make, oh, we actually already did this, so Leslie got a little bit ahead. So S equals 20, and we could say P of S equals 60 means for some side length, which we find below, the perimeter is 60. All right. Function G takes a student's first name for its input and gives the number of letters in the first name for its output. Describe the meaning of G of Jada equals 4. So this means the input of the name Jada has an output of 4 because Jada has 4 letters. Find the value of G Diego. So G of Diego equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 letters in his name. All right, number 5 says W gives the weight of a puppy in pounds as a function of its age T in months. So T is the input. So we'll have W of T equals some weight. Determine the meaning of each statement in function notation. So at 2 months, and we're in pounds, the puppy weighs 5 pounds. At 6 months, the pup weighs more than at 4 months. Okay, so this is comparing how much the puppy weighs at 6 months and how much the puppy weighs at 4 months. And then at 12 months and 15 months, well, as the puppy gets older, what's going to happen? So you can write this one and you can determine that now that I've shown you A and B. All right, Diego is building a fence for a rectangular garden. So again, when we have these situations, I strongly suggest you always draw a picture. So it has to be at least 10 feet wide and at least 8 feet long. And the fencing he uses costs $3 per foot. His budget is $120. He wrote some inequalities to represent the constraints in the situation. Explain what each equation or inequality represents. So f equals 2x plus 2y means the fence perimeter will be 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. X is greater than or equal to 10 means it says at least 10 feet wide. Width is 10 feet or more because we have a greater than or equal to sign. And then y is greater than or equal to 8 means now the length is 8 feet or more. And then 3f is less than or equal to 120 here is talking about the amount of fencing, which is $3 per foot, needs to be less than or equal to 120 because that's his budget, right? So $3 per foot of fencing has to be less or equal to $120. All right. His mom says he should also use the inequality f is greater than 0. Do you agree? So I want you to explain your reasoning here. Should the fence length be greater than 0 if he's building a fence? You explain your reasoning. So yes or no, because yes, no, ... because. So you're going to fill in that answer yourself. Okay. So going back very quickly to some of the classwork, while I'm doing that, your code word for today will be, oh, I thought of a really good one. Oh, we talked about cell phone plans. So your code word for today will be T-Mobile. T-Mobile, if you want to stop here, you can, but if you want to go back, you can get some more practice. So I'm going to start with this part here. Remember that this just means that you are replacing x with 8. So you're rewriting this as f of 8 equals 4 times 8 plus 2 equals 32 plus 2 equals 34. So for these problems up here, you're simply substituting that number, but you're practicing knowing that this is the input, and when you get that input, you're going to replace wherever you see that input x in the equation. For these graphs here, we're just analyzing in the graph above f, in the graph to the side, f of 4 equals 1. So when x equals 4, y equals 1. Find the following values of the function. So f of 6 is here, so that would be here, equals 2. F of 2, that's here, equals 4. F of 0 is here, our starting point is 7. F of 5, you fill that one in because now I've shown you some examples and you can do that. It says for which values of x is this statement true? F of x equals 1. So where is y equal to 1? That's here at where x equals 4. It also happens again over here where x equals maybe 9 point, I don't know, say 9.3 or so, just estimating approximately. All right. Now here we're talking about independent variable, dependent variable. Remember your independent variable is your input, so that's time in hours. And your dependent variable is your output that depends on the time, so this is temp in degrees Fahrenheit. Describe the following. The domain is how far across on the x range we're going on that, or how far it goes back and forth on x. So here, this is actually going to be infinite because it's going, it looks like those arrows continue on back and forth. The range is from top to bottom, right? So the lowest that we seem to have on this that we can tell so far is, if this is going up by 5s, is somewhere y is greater than or equal to 5, and then it caps out up here less than or equal to 35. All right? Then for this part, you're interpreting. If it's at 10 hours, which of the following represents this? So 10 hours is here, right? And so that's the input, so this represents the input. And then it says when it's 10 degrees is here, that's the output. So in this case, we're looking at that time in which it equals 10 degrees, which are 2 places on this graph. Okay? All right, that's it for your review. If you have any questions, please reach out. Happy homeworking and see you tomorrow.